Hey you, it's Rachel O'Mara. I'm host of the Pausecast, and I'm so glad that you are here. We are discussing tips and proven strategies in the world of emotional intelligence so that you can rise to your next level of leadership without the overwhelm. I'm also the author of the book Pause, Harnessing the Life-Changing Power of Giving Yourself a Break, based on my burnout of Google and all the things that I've learned since that are really in this realm of neuroscience, psychology, and emotional intelligence. If you're interested to download my free guidebook for how to get out of overwhelm, I invite you to do that at rachelomara.com/guidebook. Just so excited. Let's just start and dive in. I am so excited today for our podcast guest, a dear former colleague of mine, Alyssa Stein. Hi, Alyssa. How are you today?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I am well. I'm here in Florida, in Sarasota. Where are you in the world?
I'm based in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yes. And a little backstory here. So Alyssa and I spent years together. I never worked for you, but you were on the authorized buyers team and we spent many years together. I was there 10 years. I don't know. You were there probably longer, but it's great to be with you again.
It's so great to be with you too. Yeah, I think I had 15 years collectively at Google. I spent about a decade on the exchange platforms business. So really fun ride. And I'm so happy to reconnect with you here.
Today, we're going to get into a little bit of your leadership journey and your path of how you've gotten to where you are. Can you share what your current title is, where you are?
Sure. I recently started a new job at Cisco. I'm part of their security business group, and I'm senior director of their strategy and planning organization. So working really closely with a former boss of mine who I also had previously worked with at Google. Weeks, but who's counting? Time flies when you're having fun.
It's multiple fire hydrants, drinking from hoses.
Yes,
It's
all of that.
good. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, we'll get into some of that, I think, today as we talk about navigating leadership. So first, let's start off with a win. What's something that you're really proud of in your career, Alyssa?
Yeah. So, where to begin? I think there's so many things that I'm proud of. Most recently, one of the most proud moments was I actually hosted a global leadership offsite in Cleveland, Ohio. So it was really amazing to have my leadership team over the summer visit me here in Cleveland and spend time together thinking about planning. And one thing that I think you and I both learned on being such an incredible, high performing team and building culture is that it's always about the people. And so for me, having the opportunity, I worked with a lot of former colleagues in my last role. So having the chance to reconnect with them have new opportunities in their career and just continuing to watch them grow and thrive. It's probably the best legacy and highlight moment in my career in terms of just knowing that people are going to continue to do really, really great things. And we have so many moments and wins that we can celebrate and memories that we hold on to and that we cherish because we spend more time here than we do with anyone else. It's really quite interesting.
I forget that stat, but it's something like you spend more waking hours with the people you work with than people in your home or life. So kudos to you for keeping such a tight network and community to continue to help each other out. To me, that really resonates. And I see that with you, Alyssa.
Thank you. It's always about the people, nothing more important than the
It's
people.
always about the people.
Yeah.
With people, we also learn from our challenges and mistakes that we make along the way sometimes. And that's how we learn. What's something that you've learned from that might have been maybe a challenge for you in the past?
I would say one of the hardest moments in my professional career is when we had to go through a round of layoffs. And it was really just heartbreaking because they're people and they have lives and they do great work. And it wasn't about them. It was really about the time and the place that we were at in the organization. And that was a really hard time for me just to separate because I do care so much, because you just want to continue to help support people and help them land in the best new place possible. Unfortunately, I don't think tech is immune to it anywhere you go. So I would say that's definitely been one of the hardest challenges to face as a leader, not just for the people who are impacted, but the people who are also left behind. And there's something called survivor's guilt, for the folks that weren't impacted. How do you continue to help instill culture and ensure that people aren't constantly looking over their own shoulders or worried about that because no one's immune to it? And so I think that's one of the hardest parts with when layoffs do happen, when they impact employee morale and the culture, because they do care so much about ensuring people feel like they can show up and bring their best selves to work and continue to, showcase the value that they bring every day.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought up just these uncomfortable topics. Forced pauses is what I call a layoff, but they can really impact everyone up and down in a
Totally.
company, whether it's unfortunately, if it's you and the person who's giving that, it's just hard. And that survivor's guilt you mentioned is a real thing where it's hard to focus on your role and stay in a place that feels good, even if that's going on around you. And why are you there versus someone else? So, these are real issues that I think we
Yeah.
do face.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because you are the one who actually introduced me to the power of pause. And I do think it's a really good point that it does give people an opportunity and a time to reflect, because I think we're all so busy on these hamster wheels and are going, 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 that it's a lot of times just easy to forget to take a pause when you are just going through the motion of what you need to get done, whether it's personally, professionally. So I do think it's a good reminder that that could also bring you a very welcome opportunity to do that.
It's a silver lining in that intentional shift behavior. So that's like the hardest part, I think, sometimes in that lens of knowing it may not be feeling good or something that you're excited about at all, but it's the part that you get through it. You can move to the other side of it, and it's a journey in itself, but it's okay to be in the white space. It's okay to be in that void, to not know the plan. And that's really scary too.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I actually think when we do come out of that, I've had my version of that, which is my burnout. And I had been in the room with layoffs and chosen different packages and things like that too. But you always come out stronger and more resilient. And I think that's a huge testament to grit and what is possible. But at the time, you're just like potentially freaking out and not excited about it at all, which you can also understand. Yeah.
And your job isn't your identity, right? I think oftentimes people can get so focused or intertwined on one being the sole thing that defines you. And I think one of the best parts of my job as a leader is to really remind people that they should always also commit to one simple thing in addition to committing to what they themselves do for the business. So whether it's walking 10,000 steps a day or reading 4 books a month for your book club or leaving work at 5 o'clock and leaving loudly to go coach your child's baseball team, make sure that you commit to it and you are committing to it the same way you commit to a key result or an accomplishment that you're trying to achieve at work, because I think it reminds you that there is so much else to be really proud of, and remind yourself of the additional value you bring as a person, not just in.
You're bringing up a really great tool that we learned in our Google days that you're paying it forward here with others to have one simple thing. Would you mind sharing what your one simple thing is for you right now?
I would. And it's funny because when you and I worked together, I think I was in my 30s and single. I am now a proud mom of two. So I have a 6-year-old daughter and an almost 4.5-year-old son. And one of the best things and one of the best jobs that I would say I've ever had is being their mom. And so I really commit to the family time and the bedtime routine the same way I commit to what I need to accomplish every single day. I used to run a global organization. And so Monday nights were the nights where I couldn't put my children to sleep. And they would come and they would know everybody on the call by the third year that I was holding that, and say goodnight to their friends in Singapore and their friends in Japan. But now I continue that one simple thing here in my new role, and it's I have my executive business partner. She puts mom duty into my calendar, because when we are in these global roles, you need to commit to that time. And so I'm on mom duty, and I leave my cell phone literally plugged in the other room. It's good to give it a charge, but it also gives us some separation, us being me and my mobile device, and really focus on that time with my kids. And so it's probably one of my most favorite times of the day, where we read and we talk about two things. One, which is always how they were kind today, because it's really easy to say, "How was your day?" And you can just say, "It was good. It was fine." But when you really think about one thing that you did to be kind to someone today, and then just what was the best part of their day. And to me, you learn a lot by hearing what a 4 and 6-year-old think that they were doing to be kind. And I think if we can continue to think about ways to sprinkle that into our day, it's really important to model that and demonstrate that and instill that in this.
I am applauding you because you are a model for what we can be doing with ourselves and our kids and our partners and everything. Because what if we actually all did that? What if, and let alone when you're a little girl or boy, if you were to know and reflect on that, that's so helpful for creating pathways and neurological, physical activity in your own mind to know how much of an impact you're having in those ways.
Thanks. I think it also helps demonstrate empathy. And I think that's really, really hard to teach at such an early age. But if it's, going to find a friend who's sitting alone on the buddy bench and bringing them out to play with you and your friends, hopefully that's a way to be kind and give somebody a better day. And so I'm really proud of my kids for, continuing to think of ways that they demonstrate that. And it's also just a good reminder for us, right? To like take a pause in the day and reflect and have that opportunity to share that time with other people. I got one shot at being the best mom I can be.
That absolutely. And you're doing some incredible implementation with your kids too. And like bringing it back to the work world for you, you're investing the time and the energy and your heart with your family. When you think about the work world and investments, what have you done? Like, what are some of the best investments that you've made in the past few years for yourself?
A lot of times people think investments, oh, it must be a financial investment. But I also think that it's, you can invest in time, you can invest in energy, you can invest in learning, which, will help you also get really high return on your own, personal and professional growth. I'm pretty sure we worked together during this time frame, but I went back and got my MBA while I was working full time at Google. I was considered also, even though I was in the part-time program at NYU, I took enough credits that I was considered a full-time student, believe it or not. So I did, I went straight through in 2 years, and I would say it was
And worked full time.
and worked full time and was considered a full time student. And I would say it was one of the best investments, not because it changed or propelled my career in a different way, but it really taught me a lot about balance and also about the ability to say no. And I think oftentimes people think in order to get ahead, whatever that means, you got to say yes to everything. And I think one of the best lessons I learned, in addition to that, there's 24 hours in every day and you can use them all however you would like, maybe a little less sleep than I would have liked, but you also have the ability to say no. And that if you have 10 things on your plate, you don't necessarily need to take on the 11th to get ahead or to get to the next step, that it's also really demonstrates a strong leader when they know their boundaries or that they can do the top three things really well. They can't do all 300 that are asked of them. And so where do you ruthlessly prioritize, and where do you focus your time and your energy? And so I would say it was a really good investment, not just because I was able to apply a lot of what I was learning and doing in work, in school and work, but also just to ruthlessly prioritize, to balance. And then lastly, just the network of people that I continued to meet and expose myself to through school. I mean, one of my closest and dearest friends that I met in business school, we wound up working together at Google, and we're in each other's weddings. So I just think that even later in life, you can really invest in those relationships and create really meaningful relationships in just places you wouldn't even think.
Love that insight of being okay to say no. I think as women in leadership and tech, it's really a challenge as you have so many demands, including being a mom, knowing you're needed in 20 million places. What do you decide?
Yes, absolutely. And I love to learn. And that's just something that I wanted to do, to invest in myself. And again, not something that anyone could ever take away from me. And, people ask all the time, like, hey, how do you decide if you want to do part-time versus full-time? And, I think there's different seasons and different reasons for why you would choose to do one versus the other. And to me, I was working at Google in 2010 and it was an amazing opportunity. And I just felt like the opportunity cost to leave would have been greater than, trying to do both at the same time. So that was really the reasoning behind it.
So wise as well, because it ended up, you could still have your job and make money. Like to me, that's a big thing. And you still did great and got the degree and made lifelong friends and wedding friends. And that's amazing. Knowing that, I'm curious, what's been going really well for you? I know you're in a new role, in a new job. So can you share one thing that might be going well in your work life and one that may be more challenging?
Yeah. So I think anytime I make a career change or I contemplate making a career change, I always think about like there's five things that are really important to me. Sometimes, your three things might be different than my five things, but I really use those as a guidepost in terms of who I'm working with, who I'm working for, what am I actually doing day to day, does it continue to help me progress to whatever the next thing is that I want to do? And I really do believe your career is like different zigs and zags at different times. It doesn't need to be a straight linear line. And then the fifth is really just about that work family dynamic because it's cyclical. It's not really a balance, right? There's never just a balance and even it's really about just that work life cycle. And so for me, what I think is going really well is that it's great to be back with the leader that I know that I value. I think the culture here is amazing. There's really nice, really great, welcoming people. And so that's just been fantastic. Everyone's making time. Everyone wants to help. Everyone wants to get to know me and my background. And so that feels really just fantastic coming in from the outside where there's people who've had, significant decades of tenure here. And so that's great. I think what has been a challenge is you don't know what you don't know. And so you leave a job anytime you make a change, something that that you've done. For me, I had almost 15 years under my belt at the same, company, not necessarily organization, but you know how the tools, you know the processes, you know the people. People often say, oh, you know where the bodies were buried. And so to me, it's just not knowing what you don't know. But I'm still on my listing and my learning tour and going back to one of the core principles we talked about. I love to learn. I love to meet new people. And so it's just been really positive to have the opportunity to listen, to learn, to understand how another large organization operates, and then to think about ways that I can add value and have an impact. And so I'm excited to be on this journey, to be starting this journey, and can't wait to check in again when I have a little bit more time under my belt and can fill you
Maybe we'll
in.
do a part two.
Yeah, totally do a part two. But so I would say that's really where I'm at right now. And I think it's easy to be hard on yourself because you want to learn it all and you want to go fast and you want to go quick. And it's just a good reminder, again, going back to the theme of pause, to take a pause and to give yourself the grace and the time to really build the relationships and understand the culture and understand tools and processes and systems that you might not be intimately familiar with and products that you maybe haven't had exposure to before.
Well said. And there's this theme that just keeps coming up today with you and the world of people. And I just, think it's so important that it really does come down to that. You mentioned it in a few different ways. And I have a question that came up as you're speaking that a lot of companies, maybe they're startups or smaller, where they're just so fast paced that the people are there, but they're not necessarily the culture isn't necessarily embracing the people, so to speak. It's really more about deliverables and the products and things like that. So do you have any guidance? What would you tell people who might feel like their environment isn't really focused on people, but what can you do to feel like you're a part of it or visible in that way?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question. And listen, I think work has changed drastically in the last 5 years with moving remote. And I used to sit in an office in New York City, the size of a dorm room. We used to call it the dorm, where you were literally, desks whoosh next to people and you built strong
Right.
relationships naturally because you were in the office and grabbing lunch and having, the hallway chatter. What I found that you have to really make the effort virtually to get to know one another. And it's not inauthentic to spend the first minute or two of a call to ask, how are you? How's your day going? What'd you do this weekend? Because I think building that rapport helps, lead to building that trust and building those relationships that allow you to be successful. Starting out new somewhere, it's asking about who I should talk to. And in each of those conversations, asking for one to two more people that they recommend that you connect with so that you can build your own community within a larger organization. And I've really spent time in large organizations like Google, Microsoft, Oracle, now Cisco. So I haven't necessarily had the experience of working in a smaller company or a startup. But what I can tell you is I worked within small organizations within those large companies that have felt like a startup and have had to move fast. And to me, there's something really exciting about that. And there's something really bonding about being a part of this little engine that can become this greater engine and this greater thing. And I think you just naturally, when you're working on a large project or a large initiative or a large deal, form these bonds because you're spending time strategically thinking, brainstorming, finding thought leaders and thought partners in tackling whatever that big challenge is in front of you. And so I would say, really consider just ways that you can continue to, whether it's do a coffee chat or build community by asking people who are already in your community, people that you recommend. We have at Cisco something like these ERGs, these employee resource groups. They had them in Google as well. It was also another great way to find people who had similar interests, whether it was women in cybersecurity, or I created a Northeast Ohio group when I was one of the 1% that was remote at my former company. And I just think there's ways that you can really take the initiative and help to build that wherever you are.
So be one of our high performing mantras, be a player, not a victim. Thank you for those ideas. I think they're really worth sharing. Thank you for all of them, because we have to take it upon ourselves if we want to do something and we want to matter and show up in those ways, whether it's creating a Northeast Ohio group like you did. And
Absolutely.
that really matters. I wanted to ask you one more question, and that would be around your guidance. Many tech leaders, and they're just feeling like they're stuck. So what would you share if they aren't sure what to do next?
I don't know if you remember, but I have always worn this elephant on my
I do remember
neck.
the
I
elephant.
was a little girl, and my mom, my sister, now my sister-in-laws, my daughter, my nieces. It's just a reminder that you eat the elephant piece by piece, you one bite at a time. And so no matter how daunting, no matter how stuck you feel, what's one step that you can take that will help you feel like you're making progress or you're making movements or advancing to whatever it is that you need to achieve next? And so when you are a high achieving leader feeling like you're stuck or you're struggling, I think that will really help just to remind one step at a time. You can accomplish anything one step at a time.
The elephant is not a one-course meal.
No, it sure is not.
Thank you.
One bite at a time. Yeah, you got it. Thank you so much for having me. It was just so great to be here and reconnect and reminisce and, looking forward to continuing the conversation.
Where can people find you or learn more about the world of Alyssa?
Sure. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn, Alyssa Stein, and I'm looking forward to connecting with you there.
We'll put that in the show notes as well. So,
Sounds
Alyssa,
great.
thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. So good to see you. You too.
We powed out. Just kidding.
Go out. I love it.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Thanks for listening today to the podcast. You rock. If you haven't already, please subscribe, rate us, leave your review. I'd love to hear from you and help us get the word out to all of those who are in search of wanting to get out of overwhelm and rise to their next level of leadership. If you think that you might benefit from these tools or know anyone else who would, just invite them to join us. Podcast.